All right, let's do Yoshi. Um, I'm not going to do a huge big intro here because I don't have a lot of time. There are so many things we need to talk about with this character because his move list is enormous. I'll just say that I think Yoshi is a mascot of the Tekken franchise, and I think he looks better than he ever has in this game. You know, Yoshi always has a new armor in every version of Tekken, and this time it was apparently inspired by deep sea creatures, which is why he's got the bioluminescence going on. Yoshi's a little bit of like the anti-Dragonov in this game. You know, if you're online collecting wins with Dragonov, somebody might criticize you saying, well, you just did running 2 into running 2 into down 2 into down 2. How hard is that? But if you're playing Yoshi, nobody's going to go, well, you just stabbed yourself in the toe and then puked on me and then turned yourself into a helicopter. Basic. He's very wild, and while he doesn't have those few super effective, super easy to understand moves that you can just sort of rotate, he has a huge amount of moves that are situational and ambiguously useful. And so it really is a character that you really need to spend time with and specialize with to flesh out your gameplay with him. He's going to thrive in the hands of somebody who likes to do hard reads and crazy setups and stuff. That's one of the reasons I'm not going to be able to go through absolutely everything in this tutorial, because if I did, we'd end up sitting here for something like 5-6 hours. But what I'm going to try and do is give you that basic package for how to start out playing a decent Yoshi with his normal sort of useful neutral game. Add in a little bit of information about combos and stances, and then if you want to get really good with him, you're going to have to take that and then start, incorporating your own personality and all these different situational things that you would want to stack on top of that. I think that's going to do it for the intro. So we're going to do what we usually do and jump into block punishment here. We're going to start out at -6 for standing because you actually do have a 6-frame move. This is Yoshi's Flash. It's the fastest move in Tekken. It's 6 frames and it launches on normal hits, which sounds amazing. Problem being that the move has no range whatsoever. And so this is not really used so much as a block punisher, although it can, and I'm going to mention a couple of situations where you can do that a little bit later. But it's more kind of like a reversal slash parry kind of thing, where when you know that your opponent is going to attack into your hitbox and you have a big enough window that you can interrupt them with 6 frames, you can get the flash in there for a guaranteed launch. It's extremely powerful when applied correctly, but it also sort of demands that you have some serious instincts and some serious knowledge of frame data. But if you can get really good at when to apply this move, it's going to make a big difference for your Yoshi, and it is an iconic key move for him in that sense. I mentioned that you can block punish with this move, and we've got Miguel on the screen here. One of his best moves is his forward 2+3, which is his shoulder charge. You can actually block punish that move with flash pretty consistently in this game, meaning that when Miguel fights against Yoshi, it's actually a pretty good matchup for Yoshi, because Miguel cannot use that very important gap closer for him. Another really good move that you can block punish with this is actually running 3-4 from Elisa, which is a move that you see a lot from Elisa, and they can't use that really either because you're going to end up in their hitbox at enough minus frames that Yoshi can confidently hit with his flash, and it's going to lead to a full combo. So it is a block punisher, and I'm going to mention it in this section, but it is much more. So, it's going to be one of those things that separates the serious Yoshi players from the amateurs, pretty much. Next, let's talk about standing 10 frames. So this is where we're going to get into the sort of normal standard stuff. You've got 1-1, which is generally your best option. As you can see, this gives you 26 damage, which is... I'm going to turn off all guard here. Which is far above average, so it's good damage for your 10-frame block punisher. It's got kind of stumpy range, so I'm not in love with the range. It's not Miguel level bad, but it's not super far either. Another option that you have is 2-2. kind of a more standard jabby string. It looks kind of awkward, only gives you 18, which is fine. The reason you would use this over 1-1 is they both give you +5 on hit, which is good, which is very nice, and it's nice that it's the same for both options because it's easier to use for setups in that sense. But 1-1 is going to give you the damage, whereas 2-2 will give you the option of going into Kincho. And this is a mix-up stance that he has, and then from Kincho you can do a mix-up on hit, which is cool. We're going to talk a little bit about stances in a later section of the tutorial, but to go into Kincho off of 2-2 you press 1+2, and the manual transition is 1+2. He says Hisatsu, by the way. I don't know if you're interested, but it's the same thing that Usopp in One Piece says when he uses all of his moves. It's basically a line that you say in Japanese anime and stuff when you're about to use your like ultimate move that is definitely going to kill the opponent. It means something that is definitely going to kill, is basically the meaning of the word. Problem being that he doesn't really have something that's that impressive out of this stance, so it's kind of like Usopp in a lot of ways where he's kind of faking it. It's a decent stance, I guess. Next you've got 13 frames, and this is something to note. You don't actually, as far as I've been able to find, got something really good for 11 or 12 with Yoshi for standing, and that's important in the sense that one thing that you are going to punish a lot is hop kicks at -12, and so you don't really get -12 with Yoshi. You're gonna have to use jabs for that, which is fine. You get 26. But it would have been nice to have something good for 12, maybe a knockdown or something. You don't have that, but for 13, you have down forward 1-4, and this I really like for a Punisher. Decent damage at 31. Doesn't give a knockdown. I kind of like to have powerful Punishers and fast moves that leave me standing because then I can just keep on going with offense and setups. But this has pretty substantial pushback on hits, so it's not really something you can use. Like, you can't go straight into a throw here because it's just going to whiff. I mean, you do have options to follow up because Yoshi has some decent range stuff. But that's 13 frames. For 14 you have an amazing move, a fantastic move that you should be using a lot in many different situations with Yoshi, but it is a 14 frame block Punisher in back 2-2. 33 damage, which is very substantial, but this also causes a powerful knockdown and gives you a good Oki situation. So this is also something that you're going to use for sort of mid-range whiff punishment, and you can do a lot of damage with this move. You got to be careful because the second hit is a high, obviously, but it's a very good move overall. And if you've been playing against good Yoshis online, you've been eating this move, so you know what I mean. Good Yoshis online, unfortunately, are very rare these days, but it's an absolutely fantastic move and one of your best sort of damage strings that you have. And then for 15, you're going to get your launchers, and here we've got pretty standard stuff. You've got a down forward 2. That's a palm thrust to the nose. Well, it's a very standard sort of 15 frame uppercut. It's going to do normal things. It's got pretty decent range. It's not super far or anything. Nothing in, you know, the style of like Leo or Jack, and definitely not as far as Noctis, but it's further than, you know, something like Shaheen maybe. And then you also have a hop kick in the shape of up forward 3. This is along with Kazumi, the two worst hop kicks in the game belong to Yoshi and Kazumi. They do these hop knees, which are not parryable because they're knee attacks and not kicks, but because they don't extend the leg, you don't get any range, and it's very frustrating. It's like, Yoshi, just extend your leg and do a kick, and this would be a very decent move. Or maybe give him like Kunimitsu's super cool double hit hop kick from Tekken Tag 2 or something. But this is going to do a little bit more damage, and it does have the low crush property, obviously, so it is a very good move. Except that it has this stumpy range that you're going to have to get used to. Moving on to while standing, for 11 you've got a 4, very standard stuff. Only gives you 14, so it's not a very powerful one, but it's normal. +5 on hit, which is decent. And then again, you don't really get anything until 14. You've got while standing 1-2, which is 30 damage. And in a world where in a world where a lot of characters can launch while standing at -13, quite a few characters like Miguel, for example, can do it at 14. It's sort of unfortunate that Yoshi doesn't really get even a knockdown move up and between -11 and 14. The best thing he can do is 30 damage like this, which I think is very poor. Like basically anybody can like knock down for minus 12, 13 for while standing. So I'd say that your while standing block punishment is kind of poor, except for the fact that at 15 frames you get a launcher in the shape of while standing 2-1, and this is actually a very, very powerful launcher. A lot of characters have, you know, 15 frame launchers from while standing. Difference being that Yoshi, I'm going to show you later, can actually get pretty easily something like 74 damage off of this launcher, which is very high. You would only expect to get something in the region of 60 to maybe 65 for a typical character. So it's one of the few launchers that he has that can actually do very substantial damage. That's the combo, by the way, the max damage combo. And if the wall wouldn't have been there, you could have gotten 74 there. The combo is that you need to do Dragonfly Stance 2-2, and then you need to do a third 2 that you delay, and then you need to do Dragonfly 4, which you also delay. You then need to run into 4-3+4, which is his Power Crush. This is difficult to do, but if you can learn how to do it, then that's 74 damage for your 15 frame minus 15 while standing block Punisher, and that's a very powerful, meaning that I think ducking and looking for this with Yoshi is not a bad idea if you can get good at it. You can do easy combos as well, obviously. I'm going to show you basic combo game with Yoshi near the end of the tutorial. Alright, I think that's going to do it for block punishment. We can mention that at minus 16 from while standing, you do have while standing 3-2, which is a fantastic move. Good damage, but good range. So if you're in one of those situations where you need to do something long range to hit here, yeah, you can use this, and it's going to do you solid. Okay. I want to jump into talking about useful moves with Yoshi. This is the longest list of like useful basic moves that I've ever made for a character in one of my tutorials, because like I said, so many ambiguously useful moves that I wanted to include. But again, they're not super straightforward or super useful, but they all have their applications. Right now, like in my notebook, there's like a big section in the middle where it just says Rainbow Puke underlined. So, you know, it's one of those characters that has a lot of messy, weird stuff going on. But let's start out with the standard stuff. Down forward 1. You know that down forward 1 is, in my opinion, the most important notation for your neutral game, and my favorite one overall. And you'll be happy to know, if you like Yoshi, that his down forward 1 is actually one of the absolute best in the game, because as you can see here, the range is absolutely massive. It is 13 frames, so he doesn't suffer from bad frame data to get this really, really good range. It's an absolutely fantastic mid pokes, and in terms of like down forward 1, yeah, it's up there with the absolute best in the game. I think it might even have a little bit more range than Katarina. And yeah, it's a fantastic interruption and setup tool. It gives you -4 on block, which is a little bit more frame disadvantage than you might be familiar with or used to. But I think that's a very fair trade for a fantastic range like this. You're going to get that +5 on hit, meaning that you can go into a powerful mix-up confidently off of a hit with this move. So yeah, an absolutely fantastic mid poke and your sort of main mid for most situations. You have 2 extensions that I'm going to mention here. You're probably very familiar from playing online with down forward 1-2. Down forward 1-2 is not a very good move in my opinion, but it's a counter hit extension that is a duckable high. So what will happen a lot of the time is that Yoshi will harass you with down forward 1. He'll then sometimes tack on the 2, and he's trying to bait you into swinging when he gets the down forward 1 block, because you think it's like your turn to attack, you try and get in with something, and he counter hits you with that too. Problem being that this is something that really sharp people are going to duck a lot of the time. I mean, I eat this string, we all eat this string unnecessarily online a lot of the time, but I don't think it's something that you should sort of get used to applying a lot, because it will get you ducked, and you don't want to, you know, get into a bad habit of using something really risky like this. But it is a little bit better because it does have the down forward 1-4 extension that we mentioned earlier as a block punisher, and this means that you have a pretty powerful mid mix-up, and that really empowers the 2 options. So If you're gonna look for the counter hit with down forward 1-2 and you like this string, then definitely make sure that you occasionally mix in the forward to keep your opponent honest. I'll also mention quickly that this down forward 1-2 actually goes into Yoshi's forward 2, which is this move he has, and off of forward 2, Yoshi has the option to go into mid stone fists, and mid stone fists is a typical setup tool for the flash that we mentioned earlier. So you'll see people do stuff like, you know, 4-2, back to 2, and then flash like that, because you are safe, you're spinning into your opponent's hitbox, and it's a pretty good mix-up situation that you get into. Another thing that you can do here if you cause hesitation is because the mid stone fists recovers in full crouch, you can stay down here and you can go for full crouch mix-up. So that's another application of the down forward 1-2, but yeah, I think it's a pretty dangerous string to use, and 90% of the time I would recommend you stick to the down forward one by itself. The next string I'm going to mention is probably my favorite string with Yoshi, because I think it's one of the few things he has that is extremely solid and useful. He has down forward 3-1. This is a great string. This is a completely natural combo, so you're going to get this high 30 damage on hit guaranteed, and even if you should get blocked here, you're safe at -9, which is fantastic. The down forward 3 is a 17 frame move, so it's pretty fast. You're going to be able to use it for mid-range whiff punishment, and because both hits are mid, there's no risk of getting ducked when you're applying this string. So it's an absolutely fantastic damage string for Yoshi, and something I think he really needs. But it gets even better because he can actually use this move for setups. So this is down forward 3-1, but if you look what I do right here, so I just do the down forward 3 by itself. He very organically transitions. It's almost like a cancel into full crouch. And Yoshi is dangerous. He can create mix-ups from full crouch. So this is a very decent option for getting into that full crouch, so you can look for your sword sweep, which is a very important and powerful move for you. So you can, hurt people with this. When they're looking for that second hit, that's definitely going to cause some hesitation. Use that to get into your full crouch and then sweep them with your sword. Another thing that you can do is that you can use it to cause hesitation, and then you can go into you'd have to crouch cancel that to make it work, because it recovers in crouch. Sorry, it doesn't recover in crouch, I'm lying to you. Or does it? It does recover in crouch, I'm sorry. Yeah, so you do have to crouch cancel it, but you can crouch cancel it into rainbow drop if you're causing hesitation, is what I was trying to get to. And rainbow drop is this very powerful Yoshi throw. 50 damage, which is extremely powerful. It's a very, very good throw, and it's so good for him. I mean, 50 damage is rare off of a throw. Grappling characters sometimes get it, but it's really amazing. And you have a couple of these strings, like the back 2-2 that we mentioned earlier. You can do one hit, and you can look for the rainbow drop. You can do the first hit of down forward 3-1, and look for the rainbow drop. You can do the same thing with stuff like down 2-2 or down 2-1. You can just do the down 2, and then look for the rainbow drop. So it's a very, very good throw, and you can use these useful damage strings of his to cause that hesitation and get that throw set up. Alright, so that's down forward 3-1. Next, I think we should talk about, let's talk about down 2-1. It's another natural damage string that you have, which is very good. Second hit being a high is a little bit dangerous, but you have the down 2-2 for that, which is punishable, but that's sort of remedied by the fact that you have extensions here. You can do down 2-2, down 1 for the mid, and down 2-1 for the high. So it's an ambiguously useful string. If your opponent is unaware of the frame data, unaware of the fact that the down 2-2 is punishable and so on, it becomes a lot more useful. But I just thought I'd throw it in because I think down for 2-1, because it is natural, it's actually a pretty good sort of mid-range with punishing damage string kind of thing. But you have better stuff like down for 3-1 for that. So yeah, maybe it's not that great. It's kind of a combo tool. This is a spin move, by the way. Next, let's talk about forward 1 plus 2. This is such an amazing move. This is absolutely fantastic. What a great move for Yoshi. It's a very, very long range damage mid that is going to give you 22 damage and a knockdown on normal hit. The range is absolutely massive, as you can see here, and it's safe on block. So it's just a complete package of a move. Very, very good. Doesn't give you the wall spot, unfortunately, but you do get a knockdown. And you can also use this for Oki situations. When your opponent is knocked down and you're kind of far away, you can surprise them and catch, you know, anything that a mid is going to catch with this forward 1 plus 2. Like I said, completely safe at -8 on block, so long range, fantastic mid for you that I really recommend you use. Not that much else to say about it, it's just that single hit, but it's good for what it is. Next, I've written down up forward 1. I think up forward 1 is actually a pretty cool move for you. You're going to get the low crush, obviously. If you want that though, you know, maybe do a hop kick, but this has better range than the hop kick, much better range actually, because your hop kick is so stumpy. This is a sword swing, so you get substantial range on it. It is only -5 on block, meaning that it's very safe. It gives you a massive +6. You can see it really causes the opponent to stagger on hit here, meaning that this is another fantastic tool to set up your rainbow drop with. I think you can do this. Look for a hit. If you get blocked, you're at -5, not a big deal. If you do get the hit, you know, go into a throw, or maybe mix that up with something. It would be absolutely fantastic for a setup. Another great thing if you want to use this to set up rainbow drop is that, because rainbow drop I haven't mentioned yet, is the input for it is quarter circle back 1 plus 2, which might be a little bit of an awkward input for you if you're new to Tekken. Because the up forward 1 has a 1 notation, what you do is you hold down the 1 and buffer it, and then all you need to do is a quarter circle back 2, and you're going to get the rainbow drop super consistently. This is basically impossible to mess up if you do it this way, so definitely make use of button buffering when you're doing this, is my recommendation. Wow, we're already at 20 minutes. I need to speed up if we're going to get through this. Alright, so up forward 1, great move. Damage mid, 24. Damage really solid. Next, let's talk about up forward 4. I think this is one of your best mids and probably your best homing move. This is, by the way, the move that is sometimes referred to as avoiding the puddle. So I know a lot of you guys are fans of Eris, and this is the move that he named his website after because don't know if you know this, but back in the day he used to be a big Yoshi guy. He doesn't seem to enjoy the character all that much anymore, which I can't really blame him for. They've taken Yoshi in kind of weird directions compared to the way he used to function. But the move avoiding the puddle, which is just called spinning manji back kick or something in Japanese, I think, is just a very solid, safe, low crushing homing move and mid, which is great. You're going to get that wall spat off of it as well, and homing mids, as we always say, are very, very good at the wall because your opponent is likely to try and sidewalk away from the wall to get out of the wall situation, and once that happens you can get that wall spat for good damage. So fantastic move, and it's very reminiscent of similar moves, same notation actually, from Dragunov or Devil Jin. If you were Dragunov or Devil Jin, you'd get like a guaranteed mini combo for something like 45 damage here, and it would be absolutely amazing and a little bit broken perhaps, but you're not Dragunov or Devil Jin by any stretch of the imagination when you're playing Yoshi, so you're gonna have to settle for a decent knockdown and 21 damage. Next, I've written down 443. I think this move is really cool. He winds up this extremely long range and powerful kick that's gonna deal 25 damage on a normal hit. It's kind of slow, but it is safe on block at -5, which means that it's fine to throw this out and look for hits, and it's, you know, good damage when you do get the hit. But if you're able to get the counter in here, it's going to give you a powerful counter hit launch, as you can see right there, which is very cool. So I think 443 is something that you can use in a spaced out position to look for stray hits and look for stray counter hits, kind of similar to how maybe you would use an axe kick from Kazumi or something like that. It's Yeah, it's a decent move. Important thing to know about it is just that it is safe, so there's not a huge risk involved with just trying for it, but you're probably just going to get it blocked most of the time because of how much wind up the move actually has. Next, we've got for a tilde 3. I'm just going to mention as a. It's kind of like Yoshi's version of a Matterhorn / lightning screw. It's known as kangaroo kick, I think, in English. And it's just a very powerful mid launcher with powerful crush properties. You can get delayed hop kick combos off of it for fantastic damage, easily over 70, something like 75. And the thing to note about this move is that something that crushes this much and is a mid launch like this, like a lightning screw or a Matterhorn, would typically be very, very minus and be launch punishable. But with Yoshi, according to the frame data I have anyway, this is only going to be minus 12, which is not that bad at all. I would be happy to risk eating a minus 12 block punisher for the chance of scoring such a big launch. The range of the move is pretty good too. You know, he does this little vault forward, so I think this move is actually pretty useful. Or like it becomes useful because the potential reward is so high and the potential risk is not as high as it could have been. So the risk reward ratio of the move is good, and that's a really big thing when you're considering which moves to use in Tekken. Is, you know, risk reward is a huge thing in Tekken balancing, so to speak. I'm gonna have a sip of water here. One moment, please. All right, next move. Let's talk about, yeah, 3 tilde 4. Obviously, very important move for Yoshi. One of your best mids. It's another pretty decent low crush move that you have. It's a safe mid for very decent damage. So this move is extremely good for a lot of reasons. You can hold up to go into Dragonfly stance. If you get the move blocked, I would recommend you cancel with down back immediately. But if you get a hit, you can actually do some pretty dangerous stuff from Dragonfly. So this is one way to get in and try and, you know, confuse your opponent and maybe get a mix-up out of Dragonfly, which is, again, ambiguously useful stance. I'm going to mention what moves I think are good out of this stance a little bit later, but that's an option. Excuse me, that's an option you have to enter it, and it's also something that you can do if you're so inclined in combos. It's going to give you decent damage, but it's a little bit finicky to do. But 3 tilde 4 is a great mid that you should be using. I've also written down back 1 here. This is another mid damage string that you have with decent range. This is minus 8, so again it's safe, and again it's another good option if you're causing hesitation with this move to just do 1 hit and then buffer in the rainbow drop or something else like that. So another good damage string for Yoshi. He has a lot of those like 2-hit boom strings, but he doesn't really have you know, safe stuff overall that he can abuse to create launches and combos necessarily, but he does have pretty decent stuff if he just wants to get in and tear a chunk out of his opponent like that. But yeah, down back 1-1 is decent. Minus 8 on block. Alright, I'm gonna mention the Fubuki Ni, obviously. I think is the name of it. Anyway, this is the notorious long-range mid launcher for Yoshi. It's going to transition into back turn, and it's pretty much your major whiff punish. This is a very good whiff punish and sort of interruption tool for Yoshi that is going to give you a combo. If you want to get really good combo damage off of this, it is a little bit awkward. I mean, what most people do is they just spin immediately with the back turn too, but you can actually, if you're a madman and you have a lot of time of your hands, teach yourself how to do Fubuki Ni to back turn 1 into a down 2, and then you can crouch cancel that into a DP2 for the spin, but that is not something I think you're going to be pulling off all that easily. If you're new to the character, you're probably pretty advanced if you find that to be your preferred option off of this knee. But it's just a fantastic move overall, really. But it will transition into back turn, so you've got to be careful on block. Obviously, the safest options when you end up in those situations, as usual, is going to be to cancel with down back, to do the crouching turnaround, or to try and just throw out some sort of fast jab. But yeah, it's a good interruption tool and whiff punisher for Yoshi. And I would say spin with the back turn too immediately when you find the hit for your combo. Next, I want to mention a couple of sidestep moves. I was surprised to learn that Yoshi has fantastic sidestep moves. I didn't really know about them, but they're all pretty much great, which I thought was pretty cool. So if you're good at sidestepping and setting up stuff from sidestep, then you're gonna really like this character. I'm gonna start off by mentioning Sidestep 4. This is a safe and very powerful knockdown high and homing move, so fantastic properties already. And even better, you're going to get a massive launch on counter hit. It's a high damage launcher on counter hit, so what a fantastic move overall. Fast, damaging a knockdown move that you can use out of Sidestep. Absolutely fantastic. You also have the Sidestep 1. This is a -9 mid, so again, it's a safe mid. But this is another move that will give you a counter hit combo. So while the 4 option is probably a little bit more powerful, the risk involved is that it's a high, right? So it's duckable. You do get the homing properties and everything. And then you're only at minus... oh yeah, that's the cool thing about Sidestep 4 that I forgot to mention. It's ±0 on block, which is very weird. It's rare for a big move like this to be ±0 on block. So I mean, you can use this, and then if they block it, if they don't know, you can use this as a setup tool, because they'll be very confused if they can't, if they don't have any kind of advantage after blocking a move like this. But the Sidestep 1 conversely is -9. So while both moves are safe and are counter hit launchers, this one is duckable but very, very good on block, and this one is a mid but not very good on block at all, while it is safe. So you're gonna have to make a choice there, right? And then if you want a good launcher, you actually have that too, for a normal hit and not counter hit. This is Sidestep 2. But obviously, because this is so powerful, this is going to be punishable. So with this, you're at -13, which isn't too bad. You're not going to get launched for it, and I actually think the range and the damage of the move are both very, very good. So if I was a Yoshi player, because I'm not a fan of the hop kick and not a fan of the down 4-2, if I'm going to be completely honest, I would probably use this move for whiff punishing a lot of the time. Try to keep mobile, move sideways, and then try and confirm a whiff and get this in there. It's going to be a little bit slower, but it does have the range and it does have the damage, so I think it's a very cool move, and another powerful option from, you can jab, sidestep, do this, right? So good stuff. Sidestep game for Yoshi is very, very good. I'm gonna mention this healing stance before we go into lows, because I don't really know where else to put it, but this is 3+4 for Yoshi, and it's sort of an important setup tool that you're gonna use a lot. I mean, it's gonna depend on your playstyle. Some Yoshi players use this all the time, as long as they're in a sort of spaced out position. The reason this is powerful, or again, ambiguously powerful, is that when Yoshi goes into this stance and starts pumping, he's going to start healing. He's going to get health back. He heals a very small amount. It increases sort of incrementally the longer he does this, but it's not that much. It's not like you're going to heal yourself back up to full by using this or anything. But it is enough that your opponent is going to be worried about allowing you to just stand over here and do this, because you get that health back. The pressure is on them to sort of get in and interrupt you, and if they don't do anything, you can just stand there and keep on healing, right? So it's basically a taunt / setup tool, because what you're trying to do here is goad your opponent into trying to come in and interrupt you, and as they do that, you're going to try and catch them slipping and whiff punish them or interrupt them, basically. You have a couple of options for doing that. When you're doing this stance, you can press up, and he will do a sidestep and turn around into the foreground, and you can press down to do the same thing into the background, which is pretty good. You can just press forward to do a normal turnaround and do a move if you want to. You can press 3 for this pretty cool knockdown mid, which is going to give you a guaranteed back turn down 1 for decent damage. But I think the best and most evasive option you have here actually is press 3+4 again to cancel the heal stance, then use down back to do the crouching turnaround, and then use something like a down forward 2 for a whiff punish there, or an interruption. That's what I see, you know, good Yoshi players do a lot, but you're gonna have to sort of, because it is a string of several inputs, you're gonna have to get kind of good at making it flow nicely. But that's what I think most people use when they're looking for whiffs or interrupts with this stance. But that's one thing you can do with Yoshi when you're in spaced out positions, is to basically taunt and invite them over with this, and then try to catch them slipping on the way in, right? A lot of stuff that people do when they're running at you, is linear. A lot of people like try for slash kicks and stuff, try and evade those, and yeah, get that whiff. So that's something that you can do with Yoshi. It's not super good, but it's potentially good. Next, let's talk about some lows. I think down back 4 is a very good low poke. You can see that this has a big instep and a decent hitbox for good range. It's 17 frame startup, which is fast for a low poke. Well, it's not fast for a low poke, but it's fast for a low in the sense that it's completely unseeable and nobody's ever going to block it on reaction. You're at minus 12 on block, which I think makes perfect sense for a move like this. You're not going to eat too big of a punish most of the time. You're going to eat while standing 4, as long as you're not playing, you know, against a Tsunami Kid character or like Leo. That's not too big, so it's a very decent low poke. I'm going to have another drink here. But it's one of those low pokes that isn't going to force you into full crouch if you don't want to go into full crouch. So if you want to do this and, you know, stay standing and then keep on attacking, you can do that. And if you want the full crouch, you've got down 3, very standard stuff, very decent move. And you've got a bog standard down 4. It's just a typical down 4 that is pretty much universal, but it's a decent move. Doesn't have huge damage or anything. But yeah, the down back 4 gives you 14, which is decent. You've got down back 3-3, the stone feet, obviously in a iconic Yoshi move. I'm going to recommend that you always do the 2 hits if you're looking for damage with this. The reason being that after the second hit, the opponent can actually block this. A lot of people don't know about that, and they eat more hits unnecessarily. Weird stuff happens when you use this move, but I can show you here. If I set Miguel to second action all guard and I keep on spinning, I get 1-2 hits, and then on the third hit he's going to start blocking. So the down back 3-3 bite stuff is a decent chip low. At high crushes, it gives you 17 damage. And you have that 4, which is an extension on the string. It can be used after any amount of spin kick, so you can spin like 3 or 4 times and do this. And the mid exists there as an interruption tool for when opponents try to punish this. So it's sort of an interruption mid, and it's going to trade with most things, so it's very decent. But it's one of those like safety catches at the end of a string, you know, that you can use. Alright, next let's talk about, I guess we should just talk about the sword sweep, right? The sword sweep is a very important and powerful move for Yoshi. It is an unblockable low launcher, which is, you know, crazy. It's pretty fast for what it is. It's going to come out at 25 frames, which means it is sort of reactable. Problem being that unlike a snake edge or a move like that, which would be around 25 too, you're not going to be able to react to it and block it and then get a launch, because it's an unblockable move. So you basically need to like interrupt this or deal with it in some other way. This, by the way, is the reason that a lot of Yoshi players, like a majority, pretty much all Yoshi players I see online here in Asia at least, have gone into the customization options for Yoshi, and they changed the sparks of his moves. You can see he has this purple glow here when he does unblockables and stuff, or when he hits with sparking moves, and they changed this to one of those weird ones that basically drops like items, scatters items instead of having this glow. So there's one where it's like snowflakes and bowling pins and those weird ones. They look absolutely awful. I don't think they should be a customization option in the game, because they're like such an eyesore. But the reason a lot of Yoshi players do that is because the glow of the sword right there is the easiest part of this animation to react to. And so if you can change the spark to be something that doesn't glow purple, but it's just something that sort of blends into the background, this move actually becomes more difficult to react to. Yoshi has a couple of usable unblockable moves, and so that's something that they use to sort of steal a little bit of an advantage. It's one of the few advantages you can get from actually customizing your character in this game, and it's very weird and very Yoshi specific. But yeah, the sword sweep is what you're going to do from full crouch. You get a pretty standard, pretty good damage combo when you do hit with it, so it's a very powerful move, and it's going to be your full crouch mix-up option here. And yeah, it's a very important move, but you need to cause a little bit of hesitation to get away with it. But even good players do this move a lot. It does see use even at high levels of play, so it is useful, and you should get good at when to use it or how to set it up. Like I mentioned, I think down forward 3 into this is potentially a very powerful setup. And then let's also mention full crouch down forward 4, which is what you're going to use for another sort of low from full crouch. It's a counter hit launcher, but it is also very punishable on block at I think -16. If I don't, no, I think it's actually -21 now. So that means that you're going to get very heavily launched for getting this move blocked, which is unfortunate because it's not like it's super powerful. But it's a low that does see some use, and it is a counter hit option as well. So it's pretty decent. I think that's going to be it for the lows. Now we need to mention this as well. This is down forward 1 plus 2, 2. This is a damage low string. It's a natural combo for 30 damage. So when you have a lot of momentum, you can tack this on for 30 damage, which is very good. And this move is actually only -13 on block. Typically a move like this, you know, maybe an analogy or a comparison would be 4-4, 4-3. For Lars would be very launch punishable if they block the low, but this, if you do the low mid, only -13, so you're gonna eat a punish, but it's not as big as it could have been, which means to me that again the risk reward ratio of the move is favorable enough that you can actually use this low for damage. It's a good damage low, a little bit on the slow side though, so you got to be careful. Okay, we have so many stances to talk about with Yoshi. But a lot of the stuff with him, like I said, is so situational and so weird. Like I don't know when you're gonna need to like do this stuff, or why it even exists. So I'm not gonna go into depth about all the weird things, but he does have a couple of stances and transitions that I think are useful. So I'm gonna mention those. We mentioned Kinsho earlier, that you can go into off of 2-2. And you can go into Kinsho off of back 2 as well, which is pretty good. Kinsho is sort of a mix-up stance, and the main mix-up that you have here that I'm going to mention is you have the 1 plus 2, which is a good damage mid. This is like your main mid mix-up for the stance. It's going to give you that 36, but the back turn down 1 here is actually completely guaranteed. So that's 36 plus the 16 for 52. So it's a very substantial mid that you can do out of Kinsho. And then the mid that you're going to want to, or sorry, the low that you're going to have to mix that up with is Kinsho 3, which is a somewhat powerful knockdown slide and low. It's very punishable. It's launch punishable actually on block, which makes the string a little bit less useful, but that's the main low that you have here. Another really interesting thing that I found when researching Yoshi that I think was cool is that you can actually do Kinsho up 1 plus 2 like this, and Yoshi is, I'm not canceling the 3 here, he's actually gonna fake out the 3 by himself like automatically and go straight into Dragonfly. This is something that I saw iMusician do, which you know, he's like one of the craziest Tekken players ever, but he's a good Yoshi, and he does all this crazy stuff all the time. But he did this a lot. He would go into Kinsho, fake out the 3, go into Dragonfly, and then he'd catch people out of Dragonfly with stuff like this. So that's the main mix-up and another cool transition that you have off of Kinsho. The other stuff is mainly combo stuff like the 4-2. So yeah, not super useful necessarily. I don't think this is like a super useful move or anything, but and you have a big launch here in the 2, but it's punishable. So if you're confident that your opponent's going to duck, maybe do that. But then again, you get so much damage off of the 1+2, so I'd say just use that most of the time. And then I think Dragonfly also has some decent application in this game. So I'm going to mention Dragonfly. Manual transition is up 1+2. You can use that cool Kincho transition that I mentioned earlier. And then when you're in Dragonfly, you have 3+4, which is a completely unblockable grab for 35 damage. So they can't break this or anything. It should be considered a fast unblockable actually, which is very cool, and it's actually very good. Other options that you have here is like the best move I think to use if you don't want to go too crazy is just the 4, which is a safe mid for 25 damage, which is actually pretty powerful. It's -6 on block, so if you want to do a move here after you've created a mix-up situation, maybe with 3 tilde 4 up, for example, you can just do the 4 right there. You do have a launcher in the shape of 2, which is it does a lot of damage. It's a very weird move actually, but it's actually pretty good. If you get this blocked, you should try and get out of Dragonfly as soon as possible by cancelling out, because while it isn't very minus on block or anything, the fastest move you have out of Dragonfly is the 2, and it's 20 frames. Your opponent can do any kind of 10-frame jab when they've blocked something and you're in Dragonfly to float you, and they're going to get a float combo. So you got to be very careful with this. You don't want to be in Dragonfly unnecessarily. You want to get in, hopefully have plus frames, do something, or then get out as fast as possible. And you can do all kinds of like stupid transitions here. You can go into flee, which is like a joke stance. I don't think is very good at all, but you can do all kinds of stuff, right? So, but don't just stay in Dragonfly and be flying in front of your opponent, because they're just gonna float jab you and you're gonna eat a combo. Not a huge combo, but a combo nonetheless. Something like 40 damage for most characters. So be careful about that. But I think the 2 really useful stances that you have are Kincho and Dragonfly, and then Flee stance, Meditation stance, and stuff like that I don't think are necessarily all that good. But like I say, you have to sort of start incorporating the crazy stuff with Yoshi as you get better with him. It's just a little bit too much and a little bit too situation specific for me to be teaching you right now. I'm going to mention the puke here before we move on. It's not really a stance, but what this is essentially a weird keep out tool for Yoshi. The input is down back 1+2, and then you can use the 2 or the 1 to do the puke. You can hold it to charge it up. It doesn't change anything, but you can do it like instantly like that, or you can hold it and you can do it later. What this is another useful unblockable launcher for Yoshi, which is pretty cool and pretty powerful. But the thing about the puke is that it has this lingering hitbox. So what you will do with Yoshi is you will, when you're in a spaced up position, go into this, and you will either fake your opponent out and not do it. You can use 3 or 4 to go into a backwards cartwheel, or you just do it and then you start moving again. And if your opponent happens to be trying to close the distance and the puke is out there, they can run into it and get launched. So it's a powerful sort of keep out tool. Again, very situational, very weird, but it is useful. And as you can see here, the range is actually pretty good, and the combo is actually pretty powerful. So it's not a bad move at all. I think you need to do something like down 1-2 for the combo here though. Yeah, that works. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about no sword stance, and then we're going to try to have enough time to cram in combos before we wrap this up. No sword stance is a very frustrating stance for me, and I've decided that I'm going to do a separate video where I'm going to talk about this from a sort of design standpoint, because I have a lot to say about this. But Yoshi can put away his sword by pressing 2 and 3, or 2+3. You can do this off of certain moves like a down 2, 2+3. And when he doesn't have his sword, his move list changes a little bit, and he gets access to a couple of new moves and he loses a couple of other moves. The reason I think no sword stance is frustrating, by the way, I should just mention quickly, is I think a lot of the moves he has here just make sense and should be available to him always, and some of the other stuff just kind of looks awkward and feels awkward, but like I said, we're going to make a separate video about that. The reason you might want to go into no sword stance, and a lot of Yoshi players seem to do this a lot of the time, is first of all, you get access to a very good 10 frame block punisher in the shape of 2-1. This is completely guaranteed and natural. You get 30 damage and a knockdown. As you can see, a wall splat as well. So all of a sudden your 10 frame block punisher becomes one of the best in the game. And then the other main thing that you're trying to do really when you're in no sword stance with Yoshi is this foot sweep. This is a sort of low, very fast launcher. I mean, it's a little bit too fast to be a launcher, but it gives a full combo in this game. This is something that Yoshi used to have when he wasn't in no sword stance, and people used to really like it because while you couldn't get a massive combo, you could get a lot of good guaranteed damage, and it was fast enough that it made Yoshi's sort of full crouch mix-up quite scary and quite powerful. Now you're sort of relegated to the sword sweep when you want to mix up from full crouch, but he used to have access to this, and it's still very, very good. So this is what you're looking to do a lot of the time when you're in no sword stance. And it's, like I said, it's very powerful, it's very fast, and you get pretty much full combo damage off of it in this game. So those are the two moves I'm going to mention for no sword stance. Again, a lot of things about your move list changes when you're in no sword stance, and it's, again, a little bit too specific and a little bit too much to go through here. But I'll just recommend that you try play around with no sword stance, and be aware that you do get access to the 2-1 for a very powerful 10 frame move. It is -12 though, so you can get punished, and then a lot of the time what you're trying to do and what your opponent is looking out for is this foot sweep, because it's basically an almost unseeable low launcher, but it's a little bit easy to predict because of how common it is out of this stance. Alright, I think if we're going to have time to cram in the combos here before we wrap this up, we need to move on. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say, but it's so unfortunate that we don't have enough time, and I don't think you have enough patience to sit through like a 3-hour explanation of all the things I found out when researching this character. But let's show you some standard combos and then maybe some wall game before we wrap this up. So combo game is not necessarily something that Yoshi excels at. I think he has some of the weaker combos in Tekken 7. He doesn't get huge damage unless he wants to do very weird, very specific and difficult to do combos, but he's got some standard options that you can use for most of his launchers. So the first one I'm going to show you is basically the bog standard Yoshi combo that most people are going to use off of a standard launcher. It's going to work off of down for 2, it's going to work off of hop kick, and it's going to work off of sword sweep. So that's important. And it looks like this. It's a little bit difficult when you try it at first, but it's not that hard to get used to. So you're going to do this. I'm going to do the combo and then explain it quickly. So it's... Okay, so what I did there, as you can see, 56 damage is all you get, so it's not huge, but it's enough. You do the launch, you then do a forward 3, which is your spin move. You're then going to run up for a down forward 1. A 2 jab to refloat, and you use 2 instead of 1 because 2 gives you a little bit more damage. You're then going to do back to 1, which is this move, which is like a damage ender kind of thing. You're going to press 1 plus 2 to transition into Kincho after back to 1, and then you're going to do Kincho forward 2, which is that move for the final hit. So let's show the combo one more time, maybe off a hop kick this time. There you go, and you can see you get a little bit more damage off of the hop kick. And again, you can do the exact same thing off of sword sweep. There you go. So that's the bog standard Yoshi combo. Next, I need to show you how to combo off of the Fubuki knee. So like I say, I recommend you spin immediately with the back turn 2. Let's do that again. And then you can see that you end the combo in pretty much the same way you did with the previous combo. I need to show you while standing 2-1. I already did show you the max damage combo off of this, which is a little bit difficult to do, but you do 2 fast ones, 1 slow one, you delay the 4, you run up, you do power crush. And that's going to give you 74 in the open, but it's difficult to do. It's not going to be super easy for you when you're new to the character. So a standard combo you can do here is just while standing 2-1, you can do 2, 2, 4, and then you can do your normal damage ender, and that gives you 70. So like I say, you don't have great combo damage overall, but off of your while standing 15 frame launch, you actually get really respectable damage, which is cool. Because I mentioned the no sword stance stuff, I'm going to show you some stuff off of that as well, because I think it's important. The leg sweep combo, the best option that I found. Don't get upset with me, because I was looking for something that I thought did decent damage and just made sense to me. It's a little bit difficult to do, so you're gonna have to practice it, but this is what I would recommend. So you do the foot sweep. Okay, let's try that again. Alright, so what that is as you can see, it's pretty much full combo damage. What I'm doing here is I'm doing the foot sweep into while standing 4. I'm then doing a very fast Shoryuken 2, which is that move, which is a spin move that he has in this game with a very low hitbox. I then do forward 3 plus 4, and out of no sword stance, this doesn't give you the awkward thing where he goes on stilts. It's just a pretty good damage string, damage filler. So I do forward 3 plus 4, 1 jab, forward 3 plus 4, back to 1. And I think that's pretty much the best option you have, and I think it's cool, it makes sense. Just takes a little bit of practice. If you're in no sword stance when you launch, normally you can also use the string to get cool combos like this. Okay, let's try this one. Which is going to give you upwards of 60 damage. So I mean, this it would be so much better for Yoshi if he could just have access to this version of his power crush even when his sword is out. But like I said, my no sword stance rant on like Yoshi design is going to be another video. I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up. For combos, I'm just going to mention quickly that when you are at the wall with Yoshi, the normal damage string that you do for a wall combo is down 2 to 1. So down 2 to 1 like that. It's not huge, but it's decent. You also see a lot of people do just back to 1, and then they use 1 plus 2 to go into Kincho. It's not great damage, but it recovers quick, and you can get a Kincho mix-up for Oki, which is pretty cool. And then a lot of people just love to go and spam a lot of stone feed here to harass people, which works. If you're going to do that, just be aware that you never want to do the full 6 hits. The maximum you should ever do is 5, because if you do the 6, you're going to get dizzy and he's going to fall down. Which might be pretty safe in this situation, actually. I don't really know, but yeah, you don't want to get dizzy with Yoshi. Right, I think that's going to wrap up our little tutorial on Yoshi. Like I said, there were so many more things I would have liked to talk about, but I think this is enough that you're going to be able to start out and experiment with this character, and he really is a character that warrants your experimentation and your love and your specialization. He's definitely not a character for those who love like super straightforward, easy to understand gameplay, and not really a character for those who aren't really familiar with the basics of Tekken yet. I don't think he's a great starter character, but he is a mascot. He looks fantastic, and he's probably a lot of fun when you can get all of his crazy stuff going. So definitely check Yoshi out and show him some love. Look forward to another video by me very soon where I'm going to talk about my thoughts on his design overall. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again in a new video very, very soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.